Hey everybody, I'm Anna McEwen. And now for Bob Switzer with the epic narrative.
Okay, today, well, Bob's already asking, are we really going to get, I don't think we are actually. I'll just set you up right now because there's a lot in these few verses. So, yeah, we're gonna camp out on about on just a few verses here in chapter 32. So we are not going to get to the place where Moses shows up at camp, but we are. This is why because this whole scenario, this conversation with God is fascinating, and I think it deserves the opportunity to really kind of peel it apart. So, verse 7 of chapter 32 of the book of Exodus, then the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people whom you brought out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it and said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.' I have seen these people," the Lord said to Moses, "and they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so that my anger may burn against them and I may destroy them, and I will make you into a great nation." So ominous, right? The way that they laid that out in Scripture. And I'll tell you, most preachers, not all, most preachers aren't going to tear that apart because they like a God that's like this. We've done this, we've mentioned this at least 1,000 times now in the 3 seasons of the epic narrative. A lot of preachers like an angry God because it gives them that excuse to manipulate and to control people. And this is the way God sounds to them. So why would they dig in any further? It's clear as day, Bob. It's written right there in the Word of God. And I do read a wide range of people. I do this on purpose. I think it's healthy. I don't think unity comes through uniformity. I think it comes through understanding each other, honoring one another, and by honoring I mean pulling out the gold in one another. Anyone can pull out dirt. And unfortunately, what I see in these verses, what I see happen a lot of time with these verses is people look at this and they think God is pulling out dirt on his creation. He's showing them how dirty they are. And I think to myself, nope. Why would he do that? There's no need for him to do that. If he's got anything to do with dirt, he's removing it so that he can get to the gold and honor the identity and purpose and destiny that they were called to. No. This whole thing, and we'll go over it, I'm sure, several times today. This whole thing is an opportunity for Moses to choose. Moses has 2 choices. And God presents them to him. He's like, all right, let's just lay out the options here. And he gives Moses 2 options, and Moses's choice is vital. It's vital, and it does play into his arrival back at the camp. I think it's significant, and that's why it's written here, right? The Bible is written, like I said, many times is written as an outline to a big story. And the reason why this exchange is written in there, as Moses is remembering things and writing them down, so that they would be written down forever. He wanted people to know. Listen, I am laying there at the altar of God, at the presence of God. I'm there in the banquet hall of heaven. I'm standing on a floor of brilliantly blue glass of heaven. It's I can't even describe it. It's breathtaking. And there I am. And I'm listening to the Lord, and he's walking, we've walked through the temple and the tabernacle, and he's described everything to me, and I understand his heart behind it all, and his desire to bring forth a nation that is in constant, continual, intimate conversation with their Creator. Yes, Bob's like, wow, that was a good sentence. It was a good sentence. I hope somebody writes that down. I do. So Moses is just soaking all of that in. And he's loving it. And as he's laying there in love with God, he has this, I'm sure in his mind, he's like, how do I describe this to the people? How do I bring them to a place where they see what's available to them? How do I get them here? This is going to be awesome when a nation is following this closely to heaven. Of course, it's going to draw all other nations to heaven. Why wouldn't it? Who wouldn't want to be a part of this kind of atmosphere, of this kind of purpose, of connecting to this kind of identity? This is Moses has got to be, in heaven. and in that presence, and that's why I wanted to spend some time in that presence, is when he finds out, go down to your people, because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. So you really think God's like yelling at him? Do you think in this beautiful, amazing, joy-filled, hope-filled, peace-filled, love-filled atmosphere, God's suddenly like pissed off? Well, a lot of people do. A lot of people do. They just assume he turned on a dime. The bipolar chemical imbalance occurred, or his schizophrenia kicked in, and boom. Moses, get up. Get out, get down there. Those people you brought them out of Egypt. This is all your fault. I wouldn't have anything to do with them, but you rope me into this. You get down there and fix that. Well, isn't that what a lot of us think? Or at least grew up thinking? I mean, we don't dwell on it because, that scares us, because we think, well, he could get that way with me. No. We dwell on other things, but isn't that the way a lot of us think he kind of went into this? No, I believe, as you know, I believe God is consistent. I believe his character is constant. I believe his character is eternal, unending, undiminishing, unchanging, whatever you want. We got a lot of uns going on. So I think I would call it more of an impression than like a yell. I think it was gentle. And remember, this is the way Moses filters it as he remembers it, that the Lord came up to him and said, listen, you need to go down and see your people. They've made some choices to turn away from what I have offered them. They've made an idol in the shape of a calf to replace you. You, the one who brought them up out of Egypt. I find it fascinating that he gives credit to Moses. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when you're in a culture of honor. That you don't just share honor, right? You literally just give it to people. And God honors Moses for his leadership and his willingness to follow through on all the things that God told him to do. He's like, you did that. You kept making the choices to stand up to Pharaoh. At any time, Moses, you could have bailed. You could have said, hey, I am tired of this. I didn't sign up for this. I wanted a one meeting and boom, a 3-day journey into the wilderness and worship you for a week. That's what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for several months of arguing and watching a nation be destroyed by my enemies. by the enemies of God, to watch these idols battle it out with the lives of people on the line. This is, God, I did, this is a lot of pressure. I keep offering a way out, and the only way out is through the Pharaoh who won't listen. And it's not, I'm out. And God would have honored that. You understand that? God would have said, all right, go back to Midian, go back to your wife and kids. It'll be fine. See, God doesn't have just one option. He is a God of unbelievable possibilities. And his goodness is in every single one of them and at the end of every single trail. It's the way he is and always has been. So when he brings this impression upon Moses, when he whispers in his ear, when he calls to him in the presence of heaven, it's probably similar to waking up from an amazing dream. I mean, Moses wanted to stay. Why wouldn't you? But he also wanted to participate in what God was doing. That's another thing, is when you hang out with God, you really like what he's doing. And you start to find ways to increase what he's doing, to propel what he's doing, to participate in the movement of the kingdom. It's a beautiful thing. And Moses is lying there in the presence of God, and as much as he wants to stay, he's also thinking, I want to do this. Let's do this. And the Lord, comes down to him, if you want, and he says, listen, you need to go back down to your people. You wanted to participate in what I'm doing, so you need to go back down to your people. I acknowledge that you brought them up out of Egypt. They couldn't have got here unless, with you. If you hadn't done it, I would have had to go with another plan. But man, they have been quick. I mean, honestly, Moses, how long have you been here? 40 days? And they've already turned their backs on what I laid out. Remember, they've already heard the principles of the kingdom. It's translated here, commands. I understand that. But he's like, these are the principles of the kingdom. They've already turned their backs on them. They've already decided they don't want this kingdom. They want the kingdom they came out of. They want slavery to a master. I didn't offer them that. That's what they want. And with you gone, they've decided to go back to slavery because it's comfortable, because they know how to work it. They know how to feel. They know how to feel. They feel that they have purpose when they're a slave, because it's the only thing they've ever known. So they've already made an idol. They've cast it in the shape of a calf. And they've already given that idol credit for getting them out of Egypt. You're the one who got them out of Egypt. Remember how I said last week, the calf was to replace Moses? That's exactly what they've done. They've replaced Moses with the calf. They've given the calf credit for getting them out of Egypt, not Moses. That's what the calf was. It wasn't to replace Yahweh. It was to replace Moses. So, we'll continue. Verse 9. I have seen these people. They are a stiff-necked people. Now, leave me alone, and my anger may burn against them, and I may destroy them, and I will make a great nation of you. All right, so let's work with this. So basically, in these two verses, God is saying to taking up from where he left off in the last verse, he's like, go down. I want you to see what they've done. And then I want you to know this. I'll start over with you. Now, the word destroy means to end or close out. What he's saying is, I'm the only one that can end this covenant and begin a new one. He's not saying, I'm going to kill them all. Let's go over that again. Now, leave me alone so my anger may burn against them, that I may destroy them. That word destroy means to close things out. Remember, God always covers both ends of the covenant. What allows what that means is it never ends because he never ends. But if anybody could end it, it's only he that can end it. The behavior and activities of anybody involved in the covenant is irrelevant to the ones who keep the covenant, because the only one who's keeping the covenant is God, and the only one that can break it is him. So he's saying to Moses, listen, I can end this. I'm the only one that can, and I'll start a new one. I'll start with you. I'll make a great nation out of you. I can do this. I'm God. Now Moses sought the favor of the Lord. He said, Lord, why should your anger burn against the people who you brought up out of Egypt in great power and a mighty hand? See, Moses refuses the option. He right away he says, no. I know we're not starting over. I don't want the covenant to be broken. I love this covenant. This is a beautiful thing. Remember, now Moses has just spent 40 days in the presence of God, where everything he interacted with around the tabernacle had to do with what God was drawing the people toward and where they were headed. And Moses fell in love with the plan. He fell in love with God. He fell in love with the principles of heaven. He fell in love with the process that the people were going to go through. He was ready to walk it out. And God says, listen, you don't have to walk it out. I can end it now. We'll just start over. And he doesn't mean I'll just kill everybody. He just means we'll just start over. I'll start over with you. Rather than draw out a nation, I'll start a new nation. I'll make a great people of you and your line. Now, some people would say, well, God can't do that because he promised Abraham. Yeah, but you see, when you cover both ends of the covenant, you can do this. Well, that would make God a liar. Funny, isn't it? Would it? Was God fulfilling his covenant? Absolutely. Did he cover his covenant? Absolutely. Is he a liar? Nope. Nope. He can't be. So he's like, listen, God, I'm coming to you on behalf of your character. Listen, you want friendship. You want love. You want hope. You want all these things to be seen by the other nations. He's like, I'm not thinking that this is a good move, because now is he approaching God from a place of slavery? No, he's approaching God from a place of partnership, of friendship. He's like, whoa, no, not a good plan. Let's walk this out together, God. He's not saying, like, if Moses felt that he was a slave, he would have said, yes, master, whatever you want to do, take out, you can start over with me. I am your humble servant. I will do as you say. The people are stiff-necked people and they deserve to die. But I will do as you command, whatever you want to do. That's the response of a slave. Moses responds as royalty. The king says, you want to start over? I'll start over with you. And Moses says, no, let's work this out. I think based on your character, it's probably a better plan not to wipe them out, not to destroy the covenant, not to let them disperse into the world. I think it's probably best if we remember that the nations are watching us. They've seen what you did to get all these people out of Egypt. They understand your power. They understand your authority. And they understand that you've chosen these people to stand in that place. So if we're going to represent you on this earth, I think we probably should rethink your proposal of doing away with the covenant. Because, well, he explains it this way in verse 12. Why should the Egyptians say it was with evil intent that he brought them out, to kill them in the mountains, to wipe them out off the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger, relent, and do not bring disaster on your people. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, whom you swore by your own self, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of the sea and the sky, stars of the sky and the sand of the sea. And I will bring them to the land I promised, and I will be their inheritance forever. And the Lord relented and did not bring his people the disaster he had threatened. So what we see here is that God, quote, repented, right? He eased off. He relented. He said, all right, either things are possible. I'm good with it. But I need you to make that choice, and you made it. And we will roll with it. Moses's point was, listen, your character is amazing. Your reputation is growing amongst the nations. People are paying attention to us. If we disperse everybody and in essence kill the nation, he's not saying genocide and infanticide and murder. He's saying if we kill the nation, if we just do away with the nation of Israel because they behaved badly, then you're the one who gets questioned because you cover both ends of this covenant. And I don't think that's a good plan. I think the nations need to know that you are faithful, that you are true, that you are God who is filled with hope and possibilities. So let's go that direction. Let's remember what we promised them. God's like, yeah. And remember now, God, when it says his anger, don't let your anger, his anger doesn't mean killing. It meant starting over with Moses. That's what it meant. The passion of God to see the nations of his creation, I shouldn't say nations, for the passion of God to see the creation that he originated, turning back to his creator, is what his passion is about. He's like, let's do this. And Moses is like, yes, let's. And if we let this nation scatter into all the various other nations, it would be destroyed. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to start over with me. Moses knew what God meant, which is why he's like, he's just like Abraham. Abraham knew that God's promises wasn't about war or politics or buying up real estate. It was about a kingdom of principles that was going to shift the world. Moses heard God say it was going to take time to expand and to, quote, conquer the land. He knew that this was not a 2-year project. It was a 40-year project to see the nation grow and influence the promised land, to grow and infiltrate in such a way that all the tribes would come into alignment with the kingdom principles. And all of the tribes of those nations, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, all those ites, he's like, all those people would become the nation of God. Not through Israel, not as some sort of redemption through Israel, but by following Israel's example in worshiping Yahweh, they would in essence wipe out their own nation because their nation's principles were not built on the kingdom. It's a fascinating concept. And Moses understood it. He's like, no, we know this is going to be a long road. I didn't come into this with a false plan of we're going to turn this around in a week. I also, granted, I thought we'd be out of Egypt in a week, but I also didn't think we'd be a nation who was drawing all nations to God in a week. I just, I'm getting the picture. This is going to take a lot of time. So let's stick with the pattern that is process, the pattern that is growth, the pattern that is relationship. Moses understands it or whatever. He has experienced it. He's getting that picture as a leader out of in training and to be the Pharaoh. He came from a world that said, make it happen, force it upon people, write, in executive order, demand it. Those who don't comply, send them to concentration camps, re-education camps, or kill them. And Moses is like, nope, that's not, I get it. That's not the pattern of heaven. Let's go with God's pattern. Let's bring the people back into alignment again. Now, we read those words. We read into the words that God's anger involved killing. That's on us. We've done that. It says that, verse 15. Moses turned and went down the mountain with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. The tablets were the work of God. The writing was the writing of God engraved on the tablets. I mean, that again, you already know what I think of those tablets. I think they just had to be breathtakingly brilliant pieces of art, moving letters, just magical to look at. So if God's sovereignty in this case steps in and says, I'm going to make something happen, right? We look at this and think, well, why didn't God just step in and kill everyone and start over with Moses? Because God's sovereignty doesn't do that. Listen, if he wanted to do that, he wouldn't have gone to Moses at all. He would have left Moses laying there in the presence of heaven. He would have said, I'll be back in a second. Not that he would actually leave, but... And then he would have stepped in and said, hey, Moses, while you were gone, the people made a really bad choice. They made an idol of shaped like a calf. They sacrificed to it. They worshiped it. So I went down and wiped them out, and we're starting over with you. And Moses probably would have been like, wow, I did not see that coming. But you see, that's not how God operates. He wouldn't have gone to Moses and said, listen, this is what's going on down there, and I'm going to give you an option. I can break the covenant and we'll let the nation just disperse and be destroyed. Or I can, destroy it and I'll start over with you. Or we can keep on with the covenant, but man, it's going to be a ton of work. You are going to have to lead them through this very difficult first mess up of theirs. See, God's sovereignty isn't control. He's not a puppet master. He's not a plantation master. And his goodness is always there. And if his goodness is always going to be there, regardless of your choice and the ramifications of it, he needs to give you that choice, or he's not sovereign. He's just powerful. And he can beat you up real bad if you disobey. I know that a lot of people have grown up with a very angry God. And this sounds very strange. And that's why I'll repeat it. I know I keep repeating. Bob's like, stop saying you're going to repeat. Well, at some level, honestly, deep inside, I almost feel apologetic because it just keeps coming up. But it's true. What we're doing here on the Epic Narrative when we're asking these questions is we are presenting a paradigm that literally changes the way we approach the world. So Moses chooses process. And in choosing that process, he shows once again that God is sovereign in that his goodness is never going to leave, and that his love is one that trusts your ability to choose. It gives you the freedom to choose, and it will not manipulate you in order to make something happen. And I know people who are wonderful, honestly wonderful people. I don't know them personally. I follow them. They're world-renowned preachers and teachers and writers, and I've listened to them explain these sort of things, and they're like, listen, God is a God of freedom and God of love, and he gives you the freedom to choose, and he's there for you, and he backs you on it. But periodically, God steps into the timeline of history, and he makes something happen because his ultimate sovereign will is this. And so, you know, the flood is one of those times where he steps in and says, no, I'm gonna, you know, take control right here. And then, yeah, well, we can go through it all, but that's how they explain it, because some people are trying to stand on both sides of this fence. And again, a lot of it has to do with what they're comfortable with and what they've been trained in. And I think sometimes even these wonderful people, your ministry gets so big, your influence gets so wide that you almost get stuck. It becomes a really big deal if you change your position on something like this, on the goodness of God. It gets really big because now it's a worldwide influence, and now it could seriously jeopardize hundreds of careers in your ministry and in your church. So I don't blame them for trying to walk this out on both sides. I don't. I have the absolute freedom to explore it because, you know, there's like several hundred of us here listening. Like it's not going to bring worldwide ramifications. But I want to make sure you know that those who disagree with me are many, and that's okay. And if any of them even wanted to consider this, some of them can't consider it. Like, they're literally not in a position to even consider the idea that God is good all through time. And I have absolute grace and mercy for that. I do. I can't imagine feeling that trapped because I've never been there. So in verse 15, it says, Moses turned, went down the mountain, took the 2 tablets in his hands, and he walked down. Moses picks up the tablets and heads down the mountain. Now, on his way down, he has to put together a plan as to how he's going to help lead the people out of the choices they've made, or through the choices they made, or deal with the results of the choices they made. He's like, I gotta have a plan. How do I deal with these people, these stiff-necked people? And when you leave the presence of God, let me tell you, I've done this. It is not unusual for you to have an incredible turn of events on the way home. I've been in these massively amazing, not massive as in large groups of people, but in these amazing nights of worship where you're just overwhelmed by the presence of God. And on the way home, like, you just think there's nothing on the planet that could ever separate you from the goodness of God, which is true. But it's like you feel that it's true. And then on the way home, somebody will just say, cut you off. And you're like, what the? And then it's like, oh my gosh, I turned that quickly. But you see, that's just the nastiness of the enemy. It's not really deception, but it's, what is that word? It's so diabolical. He sees where you're at, and he knows you're not paying attention to him. All your attention is focused on these incredible feelings of love, joy, hope, and peace. And he's like, if I can find a crack, I'm gonna send an arrow in. And he does it. And it catches you off guard. And then right away, he wants you to feel disappointed in yourself. He wants you to feel upset with yourself. He wants you to feel humiliated. He wants you to be afraid that God's now disappointed in you as well. He wants you to feel shame. He wants you to feel guilt. All the things that don't come from heaven, but because of where you're coming from, you think all those things came from heaven as well, and it becomes this incredible battle, and he wins those battles. So as Moses is coming down the mountain, he starts to think, how am I going to deal with this? What's the next step? Now, he's also trying to integrate the principles of heaven into the decision-making process that he has, and how he's going to do this process with the people. And he starts to formulate a plan. Because remember, God already told him what's going on. God already told him what's going on. And Moses understands he has a lot of authority to decide how he's going to approach this. And along the way, he picks up Joshua, right? But he's holding these stones. Like, can you imagine how beautiful they're lightweight. They're made out of stone, but they don't weigh but 2 pounds. And they're beautiful to look at. And they capture your attention. And I'm sure as he's walking down the mountain, he's trying to be very careful because he doesn't want to drop them. Anytime you pick up something that looks like glass, you assume it's going to break. I currently work at a liquor store. Trust me, there's been a few times where I've clipped the bottom of a bottle on the way into a shelf, and I think, no, okay, good. I have broke a bottle, but it was because a case of something slipped off of a hand dolly that I was working through a doorway, and oh man, it went everywhere. Yep, smelled like a drunk that night. But anyways, on with the story. I imagine he's walking carefully. He's trying to make sure he doesn't slip. He doesn't want to fall. These things are beautiful, and he's also thinking, how am I gonna communicate this to the people? I want to tell them about this beautiful book that the Lord has written on 2 tablets, front and back. Beautiful book. I want them to see it. I want them to admire it and enjoy it. And I got to put it in the ark when we have to build the ark. Like, there's so much to do. And these people are down there worshiping a calf. Really, guys? A calf. And I just think Moses started to get worked up, and he went, instead of going to the new principles of the kingdom, he went to the principles that he knew growing up under the tutelage of Pharaoh and the teachers of Egypt. And so what happens next is Moses' plan. And we're going to look at that next week on the epic narrative. But I want you to, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump right back in. Moses had 2 options, and let's remember that this week, all right? Moses had 2 options. He chose to go with the process of the kingdom. He didn't choose to start over. God is a God of love and freedom, and he always gives you the choice, always. And he will back you on any choice that you make. Any choice that you make, he'll back you because he believes in you. And if he didn't back you, he wouldn't be a loving God. He would be a controlling master, and he's not that. So keep that in mind this week as you go out and travel. God loves you. He is good. He is there for you. You've never done anything to lose it. And I will see you again next week on the Epic Narrative.
Don't go anywhere. We've got Bob Thoughts.
Well, look who's back. It's Bob and his thoughts. Actually, my thought is we got like 4 weeks left. 4 weeks left. And season 3 is done. Crazy. We've done that's just, we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot. And whether you know it or not, we've covered it in a manner that most people haven't ever done before. Because that's the nature of what we do here at the Epic Narrative. We are doing things that I haven't seen anybody else do. I haven't, the information's out there, but to put it all together and walk it through in real time, so to speak, in the Old Testament, it's been fun. You guys are awesome. So we got season 4. We got season 4 coming up. What am I doing for season 4? I'm glad you asked. This is crazy. No, it's crazy. We are doing Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That's going to be season 4. Now, it was not an easy decision because I really wanted to go to Joshua. Joshua's like, boom, like that's a story. Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Bob, where's the story in that? And I spent some time thinking about it. My wife actually was like, really? You're going to do those books? I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't. So I did. I thought about it, meditated, talked to Jesus. And basically, what I heard back from him was this: these are the books that Jesus taught out of, and if Jesus can teach out of these books and describe a loving, kind, amazing Father, then I should be able to as well. I know it wasn't the only books he taught out of. He taught out of many books from the Old Testament, but these would have been the books that that he would have had memorized, and it's fun. Honestly, I was shocked. I'm writing notes for these things, and I'm getting a lot of inside revelation. I'm excited by it, and then when I start recording them, I'm like, wow, these coming at these books with a good God, a God who's been good all through time, is a brand new way of looking at them. It's quite honestly, I know it sounds weird, but I enjoyed doing the whole thing. I really did. Every episode I've been like, this was fun. Not, it's not the life of David, but it's something that's never been done before, and I think you're gonna love it. I really do. If nothing else, I think you'll be surprised at how good God is. Well, you can be thankful for the pause button on that. Man, I just had a crazy amount of coughing. Anyway, I hope you enjoy season 4. Keep passing this epic narrative around. I was again blown away by the number of downloads we were getting, and this is really exciting for me. It's a unique perspective as far as the type of podcast it is, just a guy and a microphone and a computer, literally just working his way through scripture. Those podcasts don't go for long usually. So I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate your encouragement. Speaking of support, this is totally funded by me, and it's not easy. It's not easy. There are things to buy and licenses to maintain, etc. I used to have a portal. You guys probably, some of you have listened for a while, you know that. I used to have a portal that was a nonprofit that let me, in essence, collect tax-deductible donations through them directly. 100% of it came to us, but that's no longer doable, which is fine. So if you want to give, you kind of have to give directly to me if you want to help me out. I do have Apple Pay, and I am working on another portal, so to speak, but it won't be tax deductible. But I am looking into it, and I'll have more information on that soon. But thank you guys very much for being out there. Somebody was like, how much do you need a year? We need at least anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a year to keep it all operational. And I don't pay Brian, and he puts in hours and hours and hours of production work over the whole season. And I don't pay my daughter for any of the graphic stuff she does. And they do it because they love me. They do it because they love what we do. But I would love to be able to bless them with a gift card of $500 at the end of the year and say, hey, thanks for all you do. So those are the goals. If you can help out, that would be awesome. Thank you guys, and have yourself a great day.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to this podcast on any platform you use. You can also reach out to Bob for questions or booking at thebobswitzer.com or email him at thebobswitzer@gmail.com. See you next week, guys.